Welcome back to GBGuns. We've got another tabletop video for you. This one from Tisas via SDS Imports. Been a while since we've done one of these, had a lot of requests, so the Zigana PX-9 Gen2 tabletop review and field strip coming up next. Tisas is one of those companies that, like Kirsan and Canik, a few other Turkish manufacturers, is known for producing a really high value, some would say clones, others I guess probably the way to dance it best is to say highly inspired variants of existing designs that have already been out and their patents gone. The CX9 Zigana, or PX9 Zigana rather, is obviously heavily inspired by the original Springfield XD line. This one, however, as with most of these guns, has a few interesting tweaks and updates to it, kind of improvements, sort of like an alternate dimension version. Bought this one, retails at the time of filming, and this is early September of 2021. These can be found for around $300, which is quite a deal. So I wanted to see what it was all about, as well as we've had so many requests from you all. I want you to notice right out of the box it comes with a holster. This is a retention holster that has a pretty clever mechanism. This piece sticking out here, your finger bumps when grabbing the gun, and that unlocks it to pull it out. It's probably the smartest retention setup I've ever seen. It works really well. If you weren't going to have a good grip on the gun's not coming out. Kind of neat. So you get that holster. We have a polymer extended mag well. Comes with it. 2 magazines. These magazines are made by Metgar, which is a good sign. Witness windows only on the right side. Don't know why. I wish they'd be on the left side or both if possible, but that's nitpicking. Anyways, 2 magazines of 18 rounds. That's right, this is a full-size capacity gun. You also have a mag loader. Up in the top of the case, we have the back for that holster. That wheel you saw on there fits onto here, so you can put it at different angles, and you can either run your belt through this or use it as a slide over clip paddle style. We've got some cleaning tools, brushes in there, as well as our different back straps and different side panels. You've got 3 different side panels per side, 3 different back straps, quite a few combinations to change the way this fits your hand regardless of who you are. YouTube won't let me show that. They think that means I'm modifying the gun or that I'm building a gun. I've tried to help educate the YouTube folks. They have refused. They said, no, we're not interested. This is despite me sending them, they asked and I sent my credentials, printed materials, things like that, showing that I'm not just a dude with a camera and some guns. They don't want to know. So unfortunately we can't show you that here, but what we will do is find out what fits us best. By us, I mean myself and Miss Tia, since we'll both be shooting this thing. No manual came in this case. I even pulled up the foam looking for it. Found that kind of interesting. I did hear that we've got hardware in here. That's good because you do need hardware to attach the mag plate. I'm going to get the case out of the way and we can finally take a look at the gun. So our look around the gun, of course, we'll start by showing clear. Magazine kicked out fairly well. Yep, we have some actual kick there. Even with slide lock. Yep, a little bit of kick. That's nice. I appreciate positive ejection. Do feel a little bit of friction in there as it starts to engage. And it has kind of a hollowy sound, but I imagine that since you've got 2 side panels and a backstrap removable, the actual body of this magazine well is rather thin. So we're clear. Drop the slide. And we'll start off up front as we always do. And YouTube, as I've said many times before, I'm not filming this with my eyeballs, nor am I directly behind the camera. The camera is at a 90-degree angle. I'm pointing the pistol in the same direction as the lens so we can take a look at the muzzle. This is the front end of a firearm. I am not pointing this at myself, nor supporting the idea of suicide or any suicide ideations. Alright, that's out of the way. The front of the gun is snub and flat, much like the original XDs. However, we have a lot of rail space up here, which is kind of nice. Some light serrations that do the trick. Notice that it's easy to get it started, harder to keep moving. I'll show why in a bit. We have some texture here as a memory point on both sides for trigger finger while off the trigger, and support thumb. It's nicely done. The texture itself, however, is not super aggressive. It kind of feels like the rubberized adhesive stickers that you put on guns. It's not rubberized, obviously, it's hard plastic, but it has about the same level of traction as one of those rubbery ones if you took away the rubberiness. We have a little bit more on the front of the trigger guard, and nice for those who like to shoot that way, as well as a small hook here on the end of the trigger guard. We have a single finger groove that is a little more than a suggestion. You can see it cuts back, and a little bit of relief here. These edges are radiused so you don't get Glock knuckle. Yep, fits comfortably with my large hands. Magazine release is protected from the rear, not from top or bottom, but it has to be pushed in. There's some of that tinny sound, that sort of cheap plasticky sound. I accept that. It's a $300 gun. What do you expect? We can see that that texturing is all around the grip. This panel, of course, removable, as well as this panel to change the size of the grip. This little cut here is for our magazine well, and the well that's on the gun has a little bit of flair to it. Fear not, however, when you have a double stack single feed magazine, your magazine serves as a funnel. If you should want more, this is the polymer one that's included. It slides on here and attaches via a screw, and as you can see, it lines up very nicely with the original magazine design. In fact, that is pretty smooth. I mean, I can barely find it with a fingernail, but that is a smooth fit. Far better than that hack job that Magpul did for Glock a few years back. That's nicely done. Larger hand people like myself might find the magwell as a nice thing, because as you see, it's trapping my finger here, sort of trapping my hand up under the gun, so when the gun tries to recoil, I'm pushing off of this magwell. Now, being polymer is not super solid, but it's better than nothing. Coming around the back side of the gun, interesting X there. We have a striker indicator telling you that the striker is armed. Once the gun has fired, it disappears. That's just like on the old Springfields. Slide to frame fit is very snug. In fact, I didn't do that up front. We have a little bit of play up front, but the back is rock solid. For sights, you can see we've got serrated metal adjustable rear target sight and a nice big fat blade up front. Black on black, which ironically is kind of the trend these days. Some folks really like that. The safety is ambidextrous, and obviously it can be put on safe when the striker is dead. When the striker is armed and you're on safe, it blocks the trigger as it should. As far as trigger, it's got kind of a spongy feel to it. It's not the best in the world. I don't expect a lot out of a gun at this price range. Squish to a wall, squish through the break. A kind of a rolling break. Probably a good one for newer shooters or people who might jerk the trigger. It's going to be a little tough for target shooting until we learn it, but not bad. Nothing wonderful, but nothing to get too excited about. I do not know about parts interchangeability between these and the original XDSs, or if any trigger parts for the original XDSs would fit in this. Those of you who know, please comment below and share your knowledge with the rest of us. External extractor, which is nice. No form of loaded chamber indicator, and for those who hated on the original XDSs for their grip safety, you can celebrate that this does not have one. Next, we'll field strip the PX-9 Gen2 and take a look inside the gun. To field strip the Zigana PX-9 Gen2, we're of course going to check for clear, because that's what you do. You want to lock the slide to the rear, and this is the takedown lever here, which we rotate down. Come on. There we go. A little stiff. We're going to release the slide gently and pull the trigger. There we go. And the slide comes off the top. Taking a look inside our frame, we can see we've got some nice beefy rails and rather simplistic construction, which honestly keeps things reliable. Nice thick rails. That is some serious lockup that they keep with the slide. Nice surprise is this captured dual spring recoil system. This is part of why it was so easy to press check and then became a little harder to rack as things went on. I found this system to be great for reducing felt recoil overall, keeping the gun easy to operate as far as press checks and things like that, and also for shooters that have a hard time racking guns. That early first stage of racking gives you some momentum before you hit the second one, so it makes things a little bit easier. Pull our barrel out. Like any Browning action, it's got to come forward. Pops loose and out. Take a look inside of our slide. The slide is hefty. Nothing too fancy. Basic construction. And our barrel, we've got pretty broad feed ramp there and a little bit of a throat polish to it, as well as the feed ramp. We'll check for chamfer support as we always do with our Nosler match, 115 grain. Listen for the clunk. We got a clunk. That's a good indicator. And as I bring it in, looking at chamber support, which is how much of the brass is supported. And all the way up to this line here is a great thing. A little bit exposed underneath. Of course, some feed ramp. Nicely supported chamber. That's important in case you ever have a case failure, be it reloaded ammunition, aluminum ammunition, or something wrong in the gun. The forces trying to escape out that way, that usually pushes the barrel, when they rupture out of a case, tend to come back down into the gun and into your hand. This chamber being fully supported, the case being fully supported around the case, jeez, sorry folks, means that chances are that force is going to work on pushing the bullet rather than trying to blow back into your hand and the gun. Reassembly is the same thing. Drop it in, barrel locks nice and tight. You can see our barrel lockup, a little bit of front and rear, a little bit of side to side, so it may not be the tightest. Drop our spring back in. When we get this thing to the range, just like with Springfields, when you put this back together, you have to watch out for this little arm here. Make sure it is down, otherwise the slide won't come back over. Alright, so we bring the slide back to the rear and lock it in place. Rotate our lever back into position. Everything's back together, and give it a quick functions check. Everything's good to go and the gun is ready. So, as I was saying, when we get this to the range, what you can expect to see is our trademarked what's for dinner test to see what loads work in this gun or not. The spring feels a little stiff, so it might be one of those Turkish guns that prefers 124 grain NATO type loads and levels of pressure. Might not run well in the soft stuff. We'll find out when we get there. We will also shoot for some accuracy, shoot our trigger control test on the spinner, which will be interesting considering this trigger is not the greatest for it, and then give you our overall opinions of it. My thoughts on it, just handling it here on the tabletop, is that for around $300, coming with two 18-round Metgar magazines, this is a great budget gun. Now, is it going to stand up to a specialty gun? Of course not. But so long as it functions well, which we'll find out in the next video, this appears to be quite a winner from SDS Imports and Tisas. That's the Zigana PX-9 Gen 2. Thanks for watching.